Are we ready for chapter 3 of Isaiah? Holy smokes. Holy smokes, man. For serious. Father, be with us. Give me the right words. Give us your eyes to see, your heart to understand, and your ears to hear. Isaiah chapter 3. This section announces God's intention to deprive Jerusalem and Judea of human leadership in their time of crisis. Let me say that again. From the beginning, from verse 1 through 15 in Isaiah chapter 3. This section announces God's intention to deprive Jerusalem and Judea of human leadership in this time of crisis. This is worldwide. This isn't just those places. Can we agree on that? Can we look at our own government as Babylon and agree that that's specifically... No, I really think it's everywhere. For the whole world will be judged. The prophet explains why man is not to be regarded in 2:22. Taking away or take away. God takes away whatever keeps his people from him. I can testify to that. But only in order that they might enjoy his glory. I can testify to that too. Can I get a witness? Come on. The word support and supply. Okay, so in chapter 3, 2 through 5, God judges his people by removing the leaders who were considered indispensable and replacing them with irresponsible boys and infants. Irresponsible boys and infants in the sense of in their spiritual and emotional maturity. Now, that was the ESV notes on that beginning part. Let's start with Isaiah chapter 3 in the Messenger version. The Master, God of angel armies, is emptying Jerusalem and Judea of all the basic necessities, plain bread and water to begin with. He's withdrawing police and protection, judges and courts, pastors and teachers, captains and generals, doctors and nurses, and yes, even the repairmen and jack of all trades. For clarification, let me read this in the Amplified version. And remember that at the time that this was written, for the culture it was written, this is a list of things that men in position that were needed to run things smoothly on many levels. This is important for later at the end of this chapter 3, where the women there are getting very distinctly looked upon for certain things. It's a very hard chapter. So look above it as just an observer. Don't take things personally. Please, Father, give me the words. Listen carefully. The Lord God of hosts is removing from Jerusalem and from Judea both supply and support, the whole supply of bread and the whole supply of water. This is a list of men. The brave men and the warrior he is also removing, the judge and the prophet, the diviner and the elder. The captain of the 50, the most I can get on the captain of the 50 was that it's like the elite team, like the SEAL teams, you know how they're really small? Well, the elite teams that would be led by a captain would be at the most 50 men. And those would have to be their elite if that's the most that they would have. It's the most elite force. And if anybody knows anything about the 50, captain of the 50, I feel that there's more to it, but if anybody else has anything on it, please put it. I could not find anything other than that. And the men of honor, the counselor and the expert artisan, all the craftsmen, you know, and the skillful enchanter. That's interesting because in the Messenger version, they took away the skillful enchanter, and the ESV didn't have any notes on that. So interesting that that's in there. Anybody's allowed to speak on that, please, because that gives me a little bit of like, what? but I couldn't find anything about it. I will make mere boys their princess, and capricious, impulsive, unpredictable children will rule over them. Who do we know that's unpredictable and impulsive and capricious, who acts like a child? Oh yeah, that dude that's currently ruling over us. I'm not being political. I'm just saying. Okay, so back to the messenger. He says, I'll put little kids in charge of the city. Schoolboys and schoolgirls will order everyone around. People will be at each other's throats, stabbing one another in the back. Neighbor against neighbor. Young against old. The no account against the well-respected. One brother will grab another and say, you look like you've got a head on your shoulders. Do something. Get us out of this mess. And he'll say, me? Not me. I don't have a clue. Don't put me in charge of anything. To the ESV version on that, the notes for that. The same verse 6 of chapter 3. For a man will take hold of his brother in the house of his father, saying, you have a cloak. What does a cloak mean? The mere appearance of qualified leadership is seized upon by leaderless people. I strongly feel that that is something that is affecting all of us right now. I don't know why, other than my heart just sank reading that again. So let me read it again. The mere appearance of qualified leadership is seized upon by the leaderless people. What is that going to create? More problems. And here the man continues in verse 7. In that day will speak out saying, I will not be a healer. This is a brother they got. No, you seem like a leader. You lead. And he says, I will not be a healer. In my house there is neither bread nor cloak. You shall not make me leader of the people. Well, what's bread and water in the beginning of this? What would be taken away? The bread and life of the Father. Because it wasn't accepted. It's just sitting there rotting. No one's picking it up. Well, that's a bad way to put it, but you know what I mean. No one's looking at the Father. No one's looking at the attributes. No one's striving to be holy. No one's eating the bread and drinking the water of life. And so this guy in verse 7 says, I will not be a healer. I cannot fix your problems. Try to make me your leader. I have my own problems. I can't. I cannot fix your problems. Exposing human inadequacy discredits self-confidence. Let me say that again. I love this because it's true. I will not be a healer. I cannot fix your problems. Exposing human inadequacy, discrediting self-confidence. Where's your confidence in? Is it in yourself? Stop it. I'm yelling. Why am I yelling? Because it's stop. Anyone out there that thinks that they're a leader or that they're someone or that they're... Really? No, brothers and sisters. Humble yourself. Be led. The rest will be by the will of the Father. Be an example. We already have a leader. That's the Father in us. Seek Him, and He will lead you to peace and still waters, even amidst the storm. Especially amidst the storm. That's when we're going to be most needed. By the Father, for His kingdom. Okay, so where were we? Oh, yes. Back to this. When a man takes a hold of his brother, this is the AMP version of the same thing we just read. When a man takes hold of his brother in the house of his father, saying, you have a robe, you shall be our judge and ruler, and this pile of ruins will be under your control. Why don't you go ahead and clean up your own mess and heal your own ruins, emotionally, spiritual, mentally, clean your temple out. Don't hand it over to somebody else and say, here, fix this. I'm not saying don't help each other. at all. That's not what I mean. I mean, I'm just saying, don't presume that others will do for you what you need to do for yourself to get closer to the Father. Those problems are being allowed in your life initially because you might be mindless, but once you seek the Father, you will start to self-correct and understand that, oh, this is my responsibility. This is going back to what we started in the beginning about sovereignty, what it really means. I will be, okay, so. You have a robe, you shall be our judge and ruler, and this pile of ruins will be under your control. He will protest on that day, saying, I will not be a healer, or I will not, see, this one said healer. This one says, or binder of wounds. I will not be the binder of your wounds. I'm binding my own. Governor is the other word they use. So many words for the same scripture. I will be a governor in my house there is neither bread. I will not be a governor. I will not be a healer of what do they say? A healer of, a binder of wounds. For in my house there is neither bread nor clothing. You shall not make me a judge and ruler of the people. Well, at least that dude knew enough to not add to all the mess he already has upon himself. Let's see. And it says, our brother will grab another and say, you look like you've got a head on your shoulders. Do something. Get us out of this mess. And he'll say, me? Not me. I don't have a clue. Don't put me in charge of anything. That is so cool. But at least that guy knew it. Don't put me in charge right now. Jerusalem's on its last leg. Judah is soon down for the count. Everything people say and do is at a cross purpose with God. Slap in the face. Brazen in their depravity. They flaunt their sins like degenerate Sodom. Doomed to their eternal souls. They've made their bed. Now they will sleep in it. Not because Father doesn't want them to be saved and happy and at ease, and because they don't seek Him. He's the only one that can give us and show us the way. Look at the sacrifice He made to make us very well aware of it. There isn't anyone in the world that doesn't know all the ascended masters, especially Yeshua. How many examples do we need? We have the internet. We can find all sorts of spiritual healers that have proven their worth through time. Starting, of course, with Jesus, Yeshua. I think some of us get stuck on presuming we're there already when we're not. Walk with the Father long enough that your life makes sense. Long enough that you're sustainable in your own skin and mind and emotions and brain is clear of stupid, silly things. Because, I mean, that's a monk, right? Is that what it takes to be a monk? There's so few examples. Strive to be that example through diligent seeking of the Father and healing and self-correcting of yourself. I wish we had more examples. I've strived to be one, but I know I am far off. But I at least striving in that direction. Strive, brothers and sisters. Strive. Stop looking at others in your life for a distraction. And try to correct other people. Confront people when they're affecting you in a negative way. When they're in front of you, or you're seeing as a brother and sister riding off the rails. That's different. That sort of confrontation is done in love, and if only when it's led by the Spirit and you have truth to back it up, not your assumptions and ideas, but what is clear-minded. So know the difference. Discern that difference. You have your own journey. And yes, we can reach out to our brothers and sisters if they're about to, fall off a cliff. Don't go over with them. And that can happen when you get off your own journey. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I know it's difficult. Just have your emotions checked. Check your emotions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. And if other people are wrecking themselves, speak truth to them once, twice. The third time, pray for them from afar and just stay out of their way. Prayer is a powerful, powerful thing. So powerful. Never forget the power of prayer. You want to really help somebody else that you think is in trouble and going off the rail? Have a prayer circle with like-minded folk that genuinely mean them well. Let's try that. Okay. Reassure the righteous that their good living will pay off. But doom to the wicked, disaster. Everything they did will be done to them. Skinny kids terrorize my people. Silly girls bully them around. My dear people, your leaders are taking you down a blind alley. They're sending you off into a wild goose chase. Let's read that in a more eloquent way. Their partiality testifies against them. They display their sin like Sodom. They do not even hide it. Woe, judgment to coming to them, for they have brought evil on themselves as a reward. So say to the righteous that it will go well with them, for they will eat the fruit of their righteous actions. Woe, judgment is coming to the wicked. It shall go badly with them, for what his hand has done shall be done to him. O my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. All the girls in the room just went, what? Hold on. O my people, your leaders lead you astray, and confuse, destroy, swallow up the direction of your path. So I'm gonna, women lead them, eh? I'm gonna put that in. Call me a woman, but I'm gonna put that in as part of the crap that the church put in to just keep women down. Of course, you can have leaders that are women. That was separation and division right there. Now, back to here. A city brought to her knees by her sorrow. Speaking of women. God enters the room. He takes his place at the bench to judge his people. God calls for order in the court. Hauls the leaders of his people into the docket. You've played havoc with this country. Your houses are stuffed with what they've stolen from the poor. What is this anyway? Stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor into the dirt. That's what the Master God of Angel Army says. God says, Zion women are stuck up. Now before we move on, really hear what the sorrow of the city is. The Lord rises to content and stands to judge the people. The Lord enters into judgment with the elders of his people and their princes. For it is you who have devoured the vineyard with your oppression. You have robbed the people and ruined the country. The plunder of the poor is in your houses. What do you mean by crushing my people and grinding the face of the poor, declares the Lord of the hosts. It comes to the following. It took me a minute. It's let me just read it in this verse. God enters the courtroom. He takes his place at the bench. Okay, where are we? God says, Zion women are stuck up, prancing around in their high heels, making eyes at all the men in the streets, swinging their hips, tossing their hair, gaudy and garish in cheap jewelry. The Master will fix it to those Zion women. They will all turn bald, scabby, bald-headed women. The Master will do it. The time is coming when the Master will strip them of their fancy baubles, the dangling earrings, the anklets, the bracelets, the combs, the mirrors, the silk scarves, the diamond brooches, the pearl necklaces, the rings on their fingers and the rings on their toes, the latest fashion in hats, exotic perfumes, and aphrodisiacs, gowns and capes, all the world's finest in fabric and design. Instead of wearing a seductive scent, These women are going to smell like rotting cabbage. Instead of modeling flowing gowns, they'll be sporting rags. Instead of their stylish hairdo, scruffy heads. Instead of beauty marks, scabs, and scars. Your finest fighting men will be killed. Your soldiers left dead on the battlefield. The entrance gate to Zion will be clotted with people mourning their dead. A city stopped under the weight of her loss, brought to her knee by her sorrows. This just makes me think of New York. When it's talking about the righteous may suffer and the wicked may prosper, but only for a short run, from a little earlier, from 3:10 through 11. Well, just think of Epstein. What's happening with Epstein right now? Gazillion billionaire guy. Piece of shit. Sorry. A righteous may suffer and the wicked may prosper, but only for a short time. The short time is coming. It's come. It's started. The people, my people, his people, the Lord demands an accounting from all those who oppress his people, whether native born or Gentile. And when it comes to the women here, this inventory of extravagant female wardrobe matches the list of hoped for male leaders in the beginning. You know, that list of all the male leaders? This you gotta remember for the time and space that it was made, right? For the culture. The inventory of the extravagant female wardrobe matches the list of hoped for male leaders. So it was kind of like a... But what I saw over here, and moreover, in the Amplified Version, moreover the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are proud and walk with the outstretched necks and seductive, flirtatious, alluring eyes, and trip along the mincing steps of an affected gait, and walk with jingling anklets to their feet. I looked at the note for that, and it says decorative chains attached from one ankle to the other to ensure a measured gait. Who does that? Models do that. And here it says, this inventory of extravagant female wardrobe matches the list. Okay, here he goes. 5 times Isaiah exerts that God will replace the women's self-indulgence with the tragedies of the exiled and abused. This, to me, brought to mind trafficking. Sorry, hold on, let me see. Blinded by the awesome light. There we go. Hi! Why trafficking? Perfect time with this whole Epstein thing. Epstein, whatever his name is. When I saw the Oscars, I don't know how many years ago, everything's gone blurry in the last few years as everything disintegrated to be reborn. But I remember as a sexual abuse survivor, 14 years, it affected my life terribly. And I remember when that whole thing in Hollywood about Me Too came out. It was around the same time that I was dealing with all that in my life. And they had this guy named Corey Feldman was trying to speak out on what had happened to him in Hollywood and everything. And I remember Oprah came on TV and in front of the Oscars, in front of all these actresses that, you gotta remember, I'm a stage actor. I looked up to a lot of these women. But in the middle of recognizing how much this Corey Feldman, which everybody knows who he is in my age group, was trying to do to expose what was happening with that Weinsberg guy or whatever, that douchebag, and everything else, it was perfect time to expose what was happening in Hollywood. And these women in our times that are all over the Hollywood scene, these models and the like, these celebrities, they're in perfect positions to know what's happening and to choose to do the right thing. I remember we all showed up and we're like, me too, me too, me too, me too. What about the kids, ladies? That's what I remember thinking. Why don't you use that power? You have all this wealth. You have every possible trauma shrink you can think of. Good that you're putting, you know, but why didn't they use that as momentum to help someone like Corey Feldman to bring about full coverage of what's happening to the core of the issue, which was the children that were being hurt. You're women, you're adults. You are in a position as an adult female to help out these children in Hollywood and expose what's really happening, because it's our entire culture runs around it. Most of these young ladies that are brought up in this industry end up being made fun of later and when they go crazy. And so that's what this reminded, this whole section about the women here in Isaiah, at the end of Isaiah 3. I know that ESV said, well, it's just trying to come up with a double list, or like, this is what came to my heart and my mind. It shouldn't just be women, but in this point, yeah, those women that are more interested in these things that they speak about here, in those models, those actresses, it's not all of them. I just don't know any that are really, really stepping up. Sad to put themselves, not that they shouldn't have put themselves in that and said me too and then exposed the people they exposed, but why not use it for momentum to heal the future and do what they could as survivors to help? So I think that's the type of women that is being spoken of here. The mothers to be, or mothers that are women, the nurturers, the weaker sex, that when put in a position of power like these rich women were here and are now. Step up, ladies. You had an arena, why didn't you use it better? So that's what it reminded me of here. And there you go. We're at 26 minutes. Chapter 4 tomorrow. Love you guys. Good night.